a call in of James Hamilton. He is with Oregon Shout, and which is a website. James, explain to hello, James.
Hello there.
Hi. Thank you for being here today. So, can you tell the listeners what your website is about and what it specifically covers?
Well, for the most part, it's more of a community group for people of Oregon and some of the surrounding states, but it seems to be people joining from quite a distance, even Australia. And they're trying to get information on their right to travel, their right of passage, which has been eroded away and morphed into other laws. And so great many people join the group because they want that information to help them through court issues, other things like that. But as well, the group also caters to those who have gardens and things of that nature and more of the other community issues as well. But peace and freedom happens to be one of the hot deals this year. So
Well,
I
I think it is hot this year. It's definitely hot this year, and it's been hot for a while. Although we are
right, but it seems to be coming to this, I guess, use the term climax because 2012, everybody's expecting, this paradigm shift of changes to come upon us or something, and supposedly a new president and all this great stuff supposedly coming down the pipe is going to make everything right, but humanity itself has to change to make everything right. So we've got some changes coming up this year, and people are excited about some hopeful changes, but it's going to be we the people that make those changes.
I agree with you. I noticed on your site too that you have some links and information about what's happening with marijuana and medical marijuana and hemp laws. Can you be a little more specific on that than I am?
Our stand at Oregon Shout and the group that we work with is that, free the green and let the entrepreneurs take over from there. The taxation effort in any way, shape, or form is robbery against everyone's natural rights. So taxation is not the answer. It will only lead to more prohibitions on different issues later on. So what we need to do is free it up. Yes, you want it freed up. Why? Well, even Senator Wyden has been working on trying to get the state to be able to grow this plant because there's so many beneficial products that are available with it, let alone some health benefits that are widely known. So there's no point anymore to do eradication or any of that kind of stuff, or even tax this stuff. I say let the entrepreneurs have it, let them see what they can do for a few years, but the reality is you need to give it back to the people. It's Genesis 1 and 5. That verse says who it belongs to. It doesn't belong to any corporation. The United States is a corporation, and it's filled with a bunch of government rules and regulations. I think 41,000 of them come down the pike every first of the year. And how are we supposed to deal with all that? There's only a few laws with humanity, and that's treat your neighbor as you would like to be treated yourself. And so most of us know how to police ourselves, and we really don't need any additional taxation or any more privileges given to us. We have rights under one God, and that's it. If your puppies didn't get trained right, you don't train your children right, and they're causing hell in society, well, guess who the problem really is? But it's not society as a whole. Society as a whole. Sure, they'd like a chance to prove themselves to be honest, reputable people that can be responsible for one another. And America, unfortunately, as you can see, and many of the states have followed the federal regulations, have not trusted their people. And realistically, if you want your people to be able to bring forth good ideas into the community, you have to give them the freedom to do stuff, not only in the arenas of hemp, but in other private enterprise businesses as well. Hopefully you agree.
I'm right with you, James. I mean, your philosophies are what is in my heart, and I do agree that that let it be a free enterprise. Of course, I also believe that right now we I mean, and I'm going to sound like I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist right now, but I don't really care anymore because it's 2012. But there are definitely the corporations are out of hand, and there have been a history of families that have their hands almost in everything. There was a scientific study that was done recently where a scientist could go on a computer and do algorithms of all the different corporations in the world. It actually comes down to 147 corporations actually own 80% of the wealth in the world. And, these families that own these things, and the banks and the Federal Reserve, they happen to be the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and the JP Morgans and the DuPonts. And they're the same people that made marijuana illegal in the first place and basically did the whole propaganda campaign against it. It's a gateway drug. Your white women are smoking weed with black jazz musicians, and the Mexicans whom we don't want to have in the country, we're going to call it marijuana so then we can shame them and get them out too. Basically was the motivation to make marijuana illegal in the first place. And a lot of people say, well, you can't have a society where you can all be respectful of one another and have free enterprise and love, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness meaning our property, which means like marijuana, which I've had a whole debate. I mean, I've written a blog about is marijuana prohibition even constitutional? And one of the things is that we have unalienable rights, meaning that because we are made in the image of our creator, and you can define creator however you want. I mean, you can say it's God, you can say it's an alien, you can say whatever that is, but because we are human, we have certain basic rights. And the fact that that's been written in a document that's based on the United States, I feel is grossly compromised. And happiness is equals to property, and the only reason why you shouldn't have property is if that property did damage to other people or to yourself. And the cannabis plant does not do either one of those things. And so it's really a violation of our constitutional rights. That's how I feel about it. But then some people say, well, what have you been smoking?
If you do enough study, you'll wind up finding out that it goes all the way back to the Scythians who were harvesting hemp anyway for rope products for Egypt or Misraim. And most people don't understand that story. But, where were they getting the ropes and everything, right?
Right.
Well, my study, and I like to play around with the historicals, biblical terms, and things of that nature. So I look at all these different things, and I come to a conclusion. There's no ifs, ands, or buts to me that the original, and I'll use the term, English term, anointing oil that was put on Aaron, the high priest in the desert, at 37.5 pounds of oil, that what they utilized there was the seed of life. And what else did they have with them but hemp and a few other assorted seeds? But, you take a look at that and you go, guess what? The seed of life. They cracked it open, and they anointed this priest forever and ever and ever. So the reality is if it's not offensive to the high priest and it's not offensive to the creator who created it, then why is it offensive to our government with all their silliness? They're sitting there worrying plant, but we can go murder Gaddafi.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're sitting there worrying about a plant, but we can't feed the hungry in our own nation.
Right.
We're sitting there worrying about a plant, but we're going to blow up everybody else and salt the whole planet like Rome did with, in our case, depleted uranium and call it good. I think there's a word on that. It says, those who call evil good and good evil, woe unto them. There's a time coming that the Gitmo is presented for these people who have corralled us and lied to us and cheated us for just generations of time. And in all honesty, if you go back to it, most of it comes out of the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church control, and all the popes control everything.
Right. That's a whole other topic too. I had a
dream. It's
a
whole other topic, but
James,
the dirt goes that far back, people.
I had a dream the other night about the Pope, and one of the bishops came up to me. I was in church, and he goes, "You need to get out of here."
I know.
And I think it's because he was evil.
One of the greatest books. I think every pastor ought to be mandated to read this book before he preaches another message. And it's called Kosher Jesus by a Rabbi Botiach. And it sounds like Bo Teach. And it just came out. It's only about $8, $9. And it absolutely gives some serious clarity what was going on historically at that particular time. It absolutely redeems Yeshua or Jesus or whatever name you want to use redeems him. And then it breaks down all the foolishness of covering up the tyranny of Rome. Now, in my particular opinion, we are still under the tyranny of Rome
Oh yeah,
in a
mine
lot of
too.
respects.
Yeah,
So, some people might think that's kind of funny, and some others may not. But,
yeah.
in all reality, Rome used to control with the sword, and now they control with religion. 4 billion people bow down to that foolishness.
Speaking of
And
the
they never checked
Vatican,
the real historical value of what the man was teaching. What he was teaching was community.
speaking of the Vatican,
and you know what? If you really look at it, he was a political advocate for we the people. So, some people ought to take a look at that again and stop thinking it's a religious movement. It was a Baal Teshuva movement, and it was definitely a political movement. But, the guy's life, all those guys' lives back then were all threatened. So, just like today, nothing has changed in history. It's just the dark hour today as it was 2,000 years ago. And we're at a great time right now where people can look at 2012 and know we're coming to the crest of the wave of our egoism and everything else. And we now know that we either take care of this paradigm shift and turn it into something good, maybe perhaps an altruistic society where it's good for one to another, where we care about one another, where we're responsible for one another. And then that'll give us the freedom to these other things that we're looking for too. Rite of passage, right to be responsible for your own health and what you're putting into your own body. As Ron Paul says, you should be responsible for that. And, we need to turn it around. But it's we the people. Last year they marched in the streets, and I agreed with them just because of the message, but not because of the manipulation, but because of the message. It was a wake-up call.
you know what, James?
I'm
I'm going to
glad
have
that
to.
stopped this year, because in
We're
all
going to.
honesty, it would have just caused us more problem. Now
James.
what we need to do is do what a member of an ex-police officer says on OregonShout.com. He
James.
says, boycott, boycott, boycott the hell out of them.
James, we're going to have to go. Our time is up, but I thank you so much for calling in. I love what you said. And let our listeners, where can they find your website and get involved?
OregonShout.com.
Thank you, James, and bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope to meet you sometime.
You betcha.
Thanks.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Shalom.
With Oregon Shout. And by the way, the one thing I wanted to point out about the Vatican, they are under investigation, actually. They had an account with Chase Manhattan that was recently dropped, also owned by JP Morgan, for possible money laundering. I know that this news has not come out in the United States very often, but if you do want to check out and find out where that information is, you can look at it on the internet, specifically in divinecosmos.com by David Wilcock. He's been following the whole evolution of the financial tyranny here in the world. So, all right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with Shiloh Jinglefoot with G-licious Dishes. Stay tuned.